we decided, it was kind of a lengthy process of deciding that we were going to leave our jobs and go do this full time. But it was an opportunity that I felt I couldn't really miss out on. It was something that I wanted to do. And I thought that if I didn't do it, I would look back and feel that I had some regrets about things that I hadn't tried out. So we decided to leave our jobs and start what was then called HelpSelf and is now called Documate, and build out the software. And so since then, we've just been growing not only within the legal aid community, but also within the legal law firm community. And we're even branching out of legal a little bit now with some medical practices and HR companies who are using our software to really automate anything that's legal adjacent.
Welcome to the Women in Legal podcast with Chelsea Lambert, where we share the stories of women who are making waves in the legal industry as leaders in law, practicing attorneys, or by working as specialists in areas like legal technology or legal marketing. Listen and be inspired to grow in your own career or find the perfect speaker for your next event.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Women in Legal podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Lambert, and today our guest is Dorna Moini, founder and CEO of Documate, formerly HelpSelf Legal. And I'm so excited, Dorna, to have you. We met and I saw your presentation at this year's ABA Tech Show. You crushed it at Startup Alley. You came to the stage with so much passion and excitement about what you've been working on. I thought, we have to connect and learn more about your story. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, for having me. I've obviously been following your career and how you guys have grown as well. And so I'm really honored to be on your podcast and talk with you.
Yeah, well, you're doing amazing things. It's so incredible to see how much Tech Show has changed over the years. And not only, we have so many female founders on stage at Startup Alley, but, just the incredible journey that you have gone through building your product and the use cases that created Documate. If you wouldn't mind, could you share a little bit of your personal backstory of how you got involved in the legal space, what really pushed you to start HelpSelf Legal, and then the transition to what is now your primary focus, Documate?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up, actually, unlike a lot of people who just kind of stumble into the legal world, I kind of grew up knowing that I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. And that's because my family comes from Iran. So, I had seen a lot in the world that I wanted to be part of changing in terms of legislative change. And I also grew up speaking French. And so that led me to a lot of opportunities before in college and before even law school, working in some West African countries, drafting legislation. So that's sort of the area that I always thought I would go into. And then I went to law school, and everyone was doing the big law route. And it seemed like even my human rights professor was telling me, go do the big law route before you do anything else. And I think that was one of the best pieces of advice I received, because even though I didn't necessarily want to go work at a big law firm and do that type of work for the rest of my life, I always wanted to do something a little bit more mission driven. It was the best foundation that I could have had for running a company, for being a lawyer, for really just working in the professional space. And so I went and I worked in employment litigation at a big law firm for about 6, almost 7 years. And I actually loved it. I did a lot of litigation. I did a lot of trial work, arbitration work, and got a lot of speaking experience in that process. And I always tell people, people leave the big law firm all the time, but I feel like one of the easiest decisions I could have made would have been to have stayed at the big law firm, because I had found my space, I knew my area, and every day I was coming into the office knowing exactly what I was supposed to do. When clients would call, I knew exactly what to tell them. But on the side, I also did a lot of pro bono work, which was where I was trying to keep myself tied to my roots in human rights and civil rights law that I wanted to go into. And so it was during that work that I realized there were opportunities for me to potentially create change in in the legal technology space, I was working with a lot of domestic violence survivors. And to do that, several people at my firm were working at different clinics. I was in the Bay Area at the time, and we were working at clinics with domestic violence survivors who needed help with their restraining orders. And then after we filed their restraining orders, we would help them with further steps of the process, going to their hearings or giving them advice on how to move forward with other aspects of their case. And what I found was that me and a lot of my colleagues who were billing our for-profit clients out at, like huge amounts per hour, we were sitting there in the clinics at a lot of times handwriting people's restraining order applications or fiddling with technology that didn't really work. And I really saw that there was a huge disparity between the technology that was available to my corporate clients in the law firm and the technology that was available in the legal aid world for helping my pro bono clients. And so I really wanted, and the genesis of the company, as you know, we used to be called Help Self, and we've now changed our name to Documate as of ADA Tech Show, actually. The genesis of the company was this domestic violence app. We wanted to build, and I got together with a friend of mine living in the Bay Area. I knew a lot of engineers, so a friend of mine helped me build out this, what is essentially a TurboTax for domestic violence law. And so we created all of the questions that we thought needed to be asked in a very simple way, and then had all of the answers to those questions flow into the different restraining order documents. And we started using it to help some of our clients at these legal aid organization clinics. And it was actually Bob Ambrogi who wrote an article about us, about our launch, which led to us realizing that this is a bigger market than we thought. So he wrote an article about our domestic violence app, which was only for California users. And after that article, it's funny because I never even knew what Law Sites was. And I realized after that it was a pretty big deal in the legal community. And after that, we started receiving a lot of influx of interest in building out similar tools for other areas of law and other jurisdictions. And so what we realized was the best way that we could actually help the legal aid organizations and really the legal community was to build out software that would help anyone build a similar platform without using any code. So as opposed to going into specific legal areas, like we would build out domestic violence law, or we would build out immigration law. Instead, we realized we should just build out software, and then any lawyer can automate their expertise on it. And so we decided, it was kind of a lengthy process of deciding that we were going to leave our jobs and go do this full time. But it was an opportunity that I felt I couldn't really miss out on. It was something that I wanted to do. And I thought that if I didn't do it, I would look back and feel that I had some regrets about things that I hadn't tried out. So we decided to leave our jobs and start what was then called Help Self and is now called Documate, and build out this software. And so since then, we've just been growing not only within the legal aid community, but also within the legal law firm community. And we're even branching out of legal a little bit now with some medical practices and HR companies who are using our software to really automate anything that's legal adjacent.
And what an incredible mission to have created this software to support what you experienced as, an everyday problem. I think that the pro bono organizations and legal aid clinics are desperately in need of every possible resource that they can get. And it's just the amount of demand from the consumer side is overwhelming. I mean, domestic violence, human trafficking, landlord-tenant, criminal cases, and other case types that fall into the legal aid clinics or pro bono, or what's now called low bono's hands, is that if they were provided with a streamlined tool such as the one that you've created, how many more people that they would be able to help. And it's amazing to see how many lawyers, and now also the advent of incubators in so many law schools, where lawyers are in the incubator setting, giving it at sometimes 50% of their time back to pro bono. How many more consumers we can help. And the access to justice figures, as you know, are incredibly just astonishing and staggering in that, almost over 80% of consumers have an unmet legal need, either because they can't afford representation, or they don't understand the process, or they don't know where to find help. And so how, being placed on law sites and having Bob do a write-up about you is incredible, and one of the best launching pads that anyone could ever ask for. How else are you finding that word is spreading about Documate? I mean, do you have a groundswell within the pro bono or the legal aid community? Do you have local advocates that you're working with? And from a business strategy perspective, how are you looking at growing Documate as a brand?
Yeah, so one of the things that has been the best source for us has just been referrals. And I was actually reading a Harvard Business Review article last night about how you grow your company from 0 to 1,000 customers, and then how you grow your company from 1,000 customers to 1,000,000 customers. And they were talking about how word of mouth is very important between the 0 and 1,000 customers trajectory. But then after that, it sort of becomes, you can't really scale it that much, but we're still in that first phase. So that has been one of the best ways for us to spread the word. In terms of legal aid, it's actually such a tiny community. And I feel like I already know everyone who works in legal aid just by having been to conferences, like the Legal Services Corporation puts on a conference every January. And we barely even market to pro bono anymore at all, because we feel like there has been such a wonderful community that has kind of referred us from one organization to another within that community. And so that has sort of taken care of itself. And we have customers every day who are reaching out to us from legal aid. We do provide them really reduced rates. So we have customers every day reaching out to us from legal aid who got referred to us from someone else. Now, in the law firm sector, that has been a little bit of a bigger challenge that we've been working on, because of the fact that a lot of, if you're doing marketing on Google Ads or some of these bigger mediums, it's pretty expensive, because you're competing with lawyers or products that are charging $10,000 for a retainer, or for, there's like Contract Express where they can charge like $5,000 a month. So you're competing with some of these bigger players. So there too, I found that just going to conferences and meeting people and networking has been a really great source for getting people in the door. And ABA Tech Show was a really wonderful experience. They gave us a few opportunities to put out different press releases, do blog posts, and do videos that were really great in resulting in people coming to our site and reaching out to us. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I would say is the legal tech community has been just so incredibly supportive. I could not have wished for a better industry to be working in. There are friends of mine who have started other legal tech companies who are constantly referring their clients or other lawyers to us and promoting us on the web and just being incredibly supportive. So that's been really a blessing.
Absolutely. And you touch on a really important part of, leaning into the legal tech community. Just coming from my own experiences and a lot of the guests on our show is that it's such a vast landscape of opportunity, but the people who you really need to know to help make those first inroads and to jumpstart your business, effectually is really only a few hundred people. And so by being out there and showing up and going to events and shaking hands, there's no better return than just the traditional face-to-face networking. And it's great to see you out there. And it is hard, especially as a startup, to compete against companies who have multi-million-dollar budgets for PPC and a 10-person marketing department. And there's nothing that will ever replace, going out and meeting people firsthand and getting to know them, and then being top of mind as they come across people who might want to use your services. And I think also what's unique about Documate is that traditionally you bring up some of the other premise-based or traditional document assembly providers, you're not only providing this incredible resource that's helped the legal aid and pro bono communities, but now for practicing lawyers, Documate has the ability to take what was traditional document automation and assembly and bring it to the cloud, which has been a barrier of adoption for quite some time. I mean, as long as I've ever been in legal tech, I think one of the biggest challenges, especially within the small to mid-sized firm space, has been bringing document automation and assembly to a place where it is tied to intake forms and the questionnaires, and you talk about the process that you designed to help domestic violence victims and to streamline that process. Well, traditionally, you would have to hire a programmer, or you'd have to buy server-based products, or you would have to, there are all of these pieces that were expensive and arduous and just very, very difficult to put together as a small or mid-sized firm. So do you see adoption of Documate happening within a particular segment of the industry or helping a particular practice area more, than another? Have you had some initial success and wins in areas that surprised you?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest areas that are using us right now are the family law lawyers. They are just overwhelmed with the number of forms that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And initially, we did get a little bit of pushback from lawyers who thought we were here to destroy the job of lawyers and automate everything. But I think they've started to realize that that's not really what we're doing. And in fact, this is an opportunity for a lot of lawyers to build out their own business, like just innovate within their own business and get more clients through volume. There is a huge portion of the population who has not really, even with legal aid, has not had access to legal services at all, because maybe they fall above the income threshold for legal aid, but they still fall way below the income or savings amount that you really need to have to hire a lawyer on an hourly basis. So I think a lot of lawyers who work in some of these fields that touch a lot of the middle class are realizing that this is an opportunity for them to expand the potential market that they can even reach. And family law has definitely been one area that we've been really successful in. And then another area that has been a little bit unexpected as well is we're starting to get our foot inside of the first big law firm. And I remember from my days of working at a law firm, we had kind of a forms database where I did employment litigation. Maybe someone from the corporate group wanted an independent contractor agreement. We had templates for these documents, but it would still take me maybe 30 minutes to pull that document, change all the information within the document, then read it, 10 times, because I'm a type A lawyer and I'm always afraid that I maybe missed a comma or a period or forgot to change the name somewhere. So it might take me 30 minutes to do something that's template based. And so what this allowed, and then at the end of the day, I may not even be able to bill for that because the client isn't really willing to pay 30 minutes of my time for a template. So what we've done with some of the big law firms is created automated workflows so that their associates or partners or whoever's using these forms can access those forms in a few minutes and have ready to go forms really quickly. So I think it's been interesting to see how it's hitting all segments of the legal market, but in very different ways, and they're using it in very different ways.
Yeah, and how fun to see the adoption in those different segments, having personally practiced in a larger firm and on the ground with the legal aid and pro bono organizations. Now, kind of shifting gears a little bit, personally and professionally, you've gone through a transition of practicing attorney now to being the CEO of a legal tech company and growing your team. And I can see like you're hiring and looking to expand even further, and all this opportunity is in front of you, which is so exciting. So on a personal level, how have you found that your focus has shifted or habits have changed to adapt to becoming, a CEO after practicing law?
Yeah, I think that, coming from the world of a law firm, I'm very used to working really long hours. And but it's a different kind of work now, because whereas before I did love my work a lot and I like working on my cases, now it feels like it's my baby. And I think about it at every moment of the day. I mean, you're taking a shower, you're sleeping, you're dreaming about it. Everything kind of becomes your company. And so the habits, I think, have shifted in a healthy way to spending a lot of my time on my business and really thriving with that. But at the same time, I've also had to kind of manage different employees. And I realized that I need to make sure that they have healthy lifestyles. And so that's become a huge focus of my life as well, is making sure that my employees are happy. When I was at a law firm, I was just doing one thing all the time. I was providing legal advice and drafting briefs and talking to clients. Whereas now I work with all engineers. My entire team is engineers except for me. And so I find that my to-do list is made up of basically everything else that could happen in a company other than technical engineering work. So I have a to-do list that's broken up between marketing and sales and product and, priorities all together, and feature requests. So it's a much broader scope of things that I'm working on in one day.
And I love how you give the example of working late hours, because there's never a shortage of things to be done in a legal tech company. And I think, we talk a lot about this on the podcast, is that the lines between work and personal are so blurred. And being able to maintain, focus on not only your business, but then, balancing that with your own health and personal life, can be a challenge. But at least if and you have the expectation going into it that what your mission is, and pursuing that dream and seeing your vision through is going to take that amount of effort, I think you're already setting yourself up to success, which brings me to my next question, which is, having gone through this journey now and being in the thick of out there in the marketplace and promoting your brand and promoting your product, and having leveraged the legal community and networked your way to where you are, which is no small feat by any means. And you've done it in an incredibly short period of time. What piece of advice do you have for women or our audience who are pursuing a career in legal tech, who might be thinking about taking that leap and leaving their role practicing law and founding their own tech company, or chasing that idea or dream?
Yeah, I think there are a few things that I want to say that we've already mentioned, and I think that people are probably getting this advice all the time, which are keep your network close with you and say yes to opportunities. But I think for me, the piece of advice, aside from those which are really important to keep in mind, I think for me, the piece of advice that I would give is just to follow your heart, because when you're at a law firm, you feel like that's your whole life. And you think that if you leave that opportunity, a lot of people make you feel like maybe that would be a failure in some way. But when I was making the decision to leave, I realized that if I went out and did this and ran this company and followed this dream that I had of building this legal technology company, and let's say worst case scenario, I failed, I would always still have a space where I came from. And so I think for anyone who's thinking of leaving the legal space and starting a company, I would say just go do it and follow your heart. And if it doesn't work out, if anything, you'll be even more marketable going back to a law firm than you were, however many years ago when you left. And if it does work out, you have an incredible opportunity to build something really amazing for the world and have a team of people who you really care about and love to work for. So that's what I would say.
Oh, I love that. I really, really do. And I don't know if there's anything worse than a what if, what if I would have done this, and you bring up such a good point that fear of it not working out, you will always have that home. You will always have something to fall back on. And to your point about being even more marketable, when you see someone who's gone out, from a recruiting perspective, has gone out and been an entrepreneur, and either, it just wasn't for them, or maybe they decided to go back in-house for some reason, there's definitely extra points on that resume to make them stand out. That they're willing to do the work. That they're willing to put in the time and the hours. And personally, coming from someone who's had a few failed startups and went back into corporate and then back out as an entrepreneur to give it another go, there is something really amazing about giving something your all, no matter what the outcome is at least that you tried and that you pursued your dreams. So I couldn't agree with you more, to just take that leap and go after it and give it everything that you've got. And Dorna, on that note, where can our audience find out more about Documate? How can they connect with you? I would love for everyone listening to go check out the platform. And if you know anyone, I know that you've got some open positions to fill and are constantly hiring. So please tell us where we can connect with you and learn more.
Yeah, so our website is documate.org. We don't have documate.com. That's owned by Xerox right now, hopefully not for too long. So that's where they can find us on our website. And then anyone can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My email is dorna@documate.org. My Twitter is @Dorna_Moini. And our company Twitter is @Documate Law. So I would love for anyone who's listening to this podcast and beyond to reach out to me. I always love talking to others about what our journey has been and helping other attorneys or non-attorneys who are looking into getting into this field. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I know, everybody's time is precious these days, and for you to carve out some for us and to share your story with our audience, we really, really are grateful and appreciate it. I know that our paths are going to cross again soon, either in person at an event or on Twitter and all the other places that everybody hangs out. So thank you again, Dorna. And until next time, this has been the Women in Legal podcast. Please share this episode with aspiring female entrepreneurs in legal tech and beyond, as well as all of those practicing attorneys who might be considering taking that leap for the first time.
Thanks for listening to the Women in Legal podcast with Chelsea Lambert. To hear more, please subscribe.